Hello, today. How many hats do you wear? I said, how many hats do you wear? Because I tell you, sometimes I stand up and I have to almost catch my breath at times. I wear so many. Today's author challenge featured author challenge guest is Preethi Bala Subramanian. And today I'm going to talk to you about the many hats she wears as a storyteller for children, the six-book series that she's written, and also for the nonfiction that she's written that impacts business. Preeti is a business transformation coach, author, speaker, mother, and wife. And she steps out, and she has stepped out and really allowed us to get to know her. And today I want to speak with her and talk about when you look at as authors, a lot of us are out there right now who are listening, and those who are aspiring authors. If you're looking to write a book, think about this. I want to ask you to please come forward and let's support Preeti and Pranav and all of the authors that will be coming through the author challenge, because when you have your launch or whatever that you're doing with your book, you do want support as well, correct? And I love to support authors. I just, that's why I do what I'm doing right now. But I want to say to you today, please get to know all of the hats that this young lady wears when she writes children's books, and you'll get a chance to learn basically the story behind. Remember, I always told you there's a story behind everything, every written piece that people write. Like my book, I have a story, and you'll be learning about mine. You'll be learning about mine when my book is published, actually in a month or so. But today, Preeti is going to talk to you about the story behind her, and the story behind, and also she'll probably bring up Pranav as well, but we'll be hearing from him later, but because he's part of the family. So we'll be looking at the many hats he wears as well. But all I want to say to you today is please join us, support authors, and deepen what author reader what relationship. So, but I want to say thank you for joining me today, Preeti, and just if you will, please tell us, a little bit about where, like your origin, where you're from, and what really impacted your decision to write your first book. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Marlene. So my background, so I'm basically from India. Grew up in India and moved to Canada only about 9 years ago. And but then also have been around a little bit. So I started in India. I was in UK for a couple of years, went back to India, and then I came to Canada. So and with my the reason behind why I write the children's books is one, basically the way I grew up. So I grew up in a family, like it was what you call a joint family or the extended family living together. So I always had my grandparents living with me, like the paternal grandparents were with me all the time. So which then meant like any festivals, religious occasions, everything was done as a family together. We would have like friends and relatives all visiting, and it used to be like a big event. And which also meant my grandmother would involve me or involve the other grandchildren in the house and tell us, okay, why are we celebrating this, or why is this done a certain way? And yes, though they were all like religion based stories, I now realize that they also all had like had values or had they were all like moral lessons too, right? Like when they were being told. So things are like those stories taught me like values about being persistent, being resilient, or like standing up for the right thing, teamwork, playing together, like all those things. Like as a kid, when you grow up, if somebody tells you, oh no, you have to be resilient, you don't really understand what it is. But then if somebody tells you a story where there is another little kid like you who is being resilient or who is doing it, you don't know the word resilient or what it means, but you get the essence of it from the story. So I grew up with that growing up. And so when I had my own children, I wanted to pass on some of these stories and values to them too. And my son was born in India. So and was in India for at least the first few years of his life. And he did experience a part of this culture growing up there. But with my daughter, she was born here. So, which then meant if I did not tell her these things, these stories or values or things wouldn't come to her generically by growing up in the Canadian system. So, that's why I started telling her these stories. Then, from orally telling her the stories, they became written books or with pictures and illustrations because she then wanted to see how somebody looked or how this character looked. And when some of my friends and her friends' moms, they saw that more of as a PDF and they liked it, is when I started publishing them as a book. And for the 6 books in the series, some of the book ideas or the reason why some books happen is because somebody asked me. They were like, "Oh, can you? Oh, you wrote about." So my first book was this one about Krishna. So when I wrote this book, some people then asked me, "Can you also write about somebody else, or can you also write another story in a way that children understand?" Because that was something that their families believed in. That was a story they wanted to share with their children, but couldn't find the right kind of books that were appropriate to that age. So some books happened out of like readers' feedback about from readers asking me if this can be the next one I write about, and that's kind of how some of the other books happened.
Beautiful. And you know what? When I look at you're right with your book series though. So that's how it came about, was that you actually started writing, and then you had people who would read the book and say, see, that's what I mean about, you
Mhm.
see what Preeti has done here. That's how she has deepened the reader author relationship. You see what she did? And
Mhm.
see, it wasn't just about, just about writing a book and putting it out there just to be sold, but she was looking to really to find a way to connect with the writing she had previously done, and now she's writing more books so she can connect with readers. And all of us, if you think about it, we all want to do what she's doing, and that's why she's got now a series, because I'm looking at writing a series. And so I've been looking at her myself and saying, what now let me ask you this though. Other than just you say the stories and everything, and other people wanting to know even more, even more stories that could deepen their own family relationships. Oh,
Mhm.
why a series though? Is there any particular reason why you think that if there are authors watching right now who are thinking about writing a series, because you got a 6 book series, why a series?
I think, like for me, one, it kind of happened accidentally is one thing, but then series, because I think then it's like when people are looking for your book or something, it's easier for them to find one. And two is it's all for the same age group around the same theme. Then it makes sense to kind of basket it together so that it kind of reaches the audience also like as a complete package, right? So it's easier for them also to understand. And in my case, like they're all like Hindu mythology driven, so it kind of made sense to package them together as a series.
Very good. And so, and actually, listening to you, I thought about that actually goes along with their growth too, doesn't it? Because they start off at a certain point reading your books, and as you continue to write, each level of their growth or experience, whatever they're experiencing, they can now connect. With your book
Mhm.
and your books, though, for children. How do you feel? Let's take your daughter. How do you feel the children's books will actually help with her development in this world of the many hats, and then choosing also, Preeti, to decide which hats not to wear, because we don't want to wear every hat, do we? And
Mhm.
just decide. So, but how do you feel it's really starting to impact her
I
now at
think
such a
like
young age?
no, I think like for my daughter, sometimes it's like so when she is in her class or like she does like taekwondo and gymnastics, and so when she's in those classes and she of course does something, she falls, right? Because that's how you learn. But then she would sometimes come back home and tell me, "Oh, I fell down and I actually did get a little hurt, but then it's okay, I kept doing it because in that story, that's what Krishna did. He got hurt and he was like, people like said bad things to him, but then he didn't let that affect him and he still did it." And she's like, oh, so I also did like that. So it's like sometimes like those connections that they can make. And also to your point, like some of my books, they also have like another parallel story. So you have the actual story, but then I also have a parallel story where it kind of says, so if the original story is about like being brave, then there is another parallel story there which talks about how you stand up for somebody who, if say somebody bullies you at the playground, or if somebody is like not even just you, somebody is bullying your friend, then how do you stand up for that friend? How do you stand up even though you may be a little one or you may be on the smaller side, but then how do you stand up for the right thing, or how do you stand up for your friend? So I have those parallel stories also, which I think makes it more relatable to children. Like, doesn't matter like what ethnicity, what background you're on. And because like, and from also from a schooling side, I was completely schooled in a Christian convent. And so, in some aspects, if you tell me, like, yes, I've heard Bible stories and those also. And from the more I listen to all these things, like now, as an adult now, I know that doesn't matter if you're a Hindu or Christian or whatever your faith is, all our faiths basically tell us the same values in different ways. Like it's all the religions tell us to be brave. All the religions tell us to be honest, be respectful, be kind, stand up for what's right. So these are like common values that all religions, all ethnicities, this is taught everywhere.
Your books, what they also say, Preeti, is, and you and I had discussed this, and that is learning to become more self-reliant, self-awareness, starting to understand that you are the one, like your daughter was telling you, she failed, but she got up and she tried again, right?
Mhm.
Even when we fall and when we know it's going to be painful, but you're teaching them in your books to be self-reliant as well, not to just run home all the time and just maybe say this happened to me and what can you do to help me. But it sounded as if she decided to take matters into her own hands. I
Mhm.
like that. It's
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, so like I said, like though there are some stories, like there are like I think a lot of people, even people who are non-Hindus, do know of this god, like Ganesha, the one with the elephant face. And like even the story behind how he gets his elephant face is one thing. And there are stories where like he has an elder brother, and the brother is more athletic, more agile, like he flies around the world on a peacock, whereas like for Ganesha, he has an elephant face and like a nice round chubby belly and all that. And his mode of transportation or something is a mouse. So but then there are stories which teach you how even though he's actually slower, he like out of his intelligence and out of his good quick thinking, he outwits his brother and he wins the race. So there are like so small things, but it's like doesn't matter how you are, you can still win, because like if you are smart enough, you can still do certain things. And even the fact as to how a small mouse becomes his helper or becomes his mode of transport, because there again there's that story that doesn't matter how big or small you are physically, what you are able to achieve is much bigger than what your physical size is, right? So there are very subtle but very nice stories and very nice values that children can learn from them.
But Preeti, in your books though, is there one particular one that actually is your story, something that may have happened to you as a little girl?
I won't say like maybe directly to me, but then yeah, some of those parallel lessons are probably instances or similar instances that have I have gone through as a kid, or some instances that my children come back and say, oh, okay, I had this problem, somebody called me names at the park, or somebody did this to me, or somebody pushed me off when I was playing in the school. So some of those things are, yes, are kind of based on reality of what happened to me as a child or what is sometimes happening to my children or other children around that I see. Some of those parallel stories, yes, are based on things like that.
A great, because this looking at as I was actually looking at, one of your books, and I'm telling you that I'll be getting a few of your books for some of the children that are within my own community, because like you were saying, we have to teach our children that you don't just learn only about what within your own culture, but we have to learn to reach out into a variety of cultures, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
need to learn different languages, and because I wanted to say to you, is that what you tell your children? You tell Pranav and your daughter that they have to reach out. You can't just stay
Mm-hmm.
seated in just one culture. You got to reach out and get to know more about others.
Yes. No, and to my point also is I think if you know more about your own culture, it also helps you accept and relate other cultures and other people more, because once you understand it, you start realizing that, oh, there are common elements. They may be like praying to a god by another name, but then the values or lessons that their scriptures are saying is the same as my scriptures are saying. So once you start understanding that, I think it actually broadens
Mhm.
your horizon, broadens your understanding and maturity, because you then start seeing commonalities instead of seeing the differences.
I'm gonna ask you this. You're right. As you were writing the children's books, did the children's books sort of lead you, sort of impact your business journey, and helped you to actually lean forward and write the nonfiction? Could you tell us a little bit about that, the nonfiction, and if you were maybe driven to write because of the children's books that you were writing?
I think it's a mix of both. I wouldn't say exactly linked to the children's books, but then yes, they both do come from my foundations that I grew up with, because that book is basically a book for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who are struggling with doing everything themselves, having the entire load of the business on their head. And I would say, like, for me, like, innately it was in me because my dad was a solopreneur. So my dad was somebody who did that. Like, he did the manufacturing side himself, the finances himself, the marketing himself. He did the administration himself, sometimes going and doing the taxes himself, doing the installations himself. So I've seen my dad be that person who does everything, and also be there for family, also be there for his parents, because like I said, his parents always lived with us too. So being there for like two, three generations and also managing your business on the side, um, the amount of responsibility and the pressure that brings in, like both emotionally and physically, like I have seen that happen. And I've seen, though back then like there was no defined system or defined support, but then my mother used to support him in his business. Like whenever she had time or whenever there was a requirement, she would step in and support. And I think like even when I was probably like around grade 7 or 8, I had also already started helping. I used to like take calls for him, like take some messages. And I even remember like when I was in high school and colleges, there are times like during my vacations where I've even gone with him to a client visit or client, gone for a meeting with him, and like probably not done much, just observe, maybe pick up some things from there, which I would tell him later, or maybe at a later stage, like just take down some notes or something and remind him later. But then, even having that little bit of support, the having support and not having support, and the help that it does, I've seen it firsthand. And I think then with my corporate experience of about 15, 16 years across like India, UK, and Canada, also supporting senior level executives and the and founders of like startups, like I think I have seen it firsthand that these people have like real passion, real drive. They get into business or they get into what they're doing for a reason, but then down the line their day to day becomes so heavy and so occupied that they are taken away from that vision itself. So I think for me, my non-fiction book and like the work I do as a business coach or a consultant is also driven very from very personal experiences and personal impact.
You know what? I feel as if you just told my story. You know that? I feel because being a solopreneur, you just pretty much you went through all your structure. What you just said was
Mhm,
I'm serious, so it much in line with, and you and I have are from different cultures, but look at the similarities. Look at the similarities that you just described, because there I was also in business, and my mother worked with me. My mother was she was a tax auditor, so she came in the business with me. And then one of my good friends, she was superb. I hired her. She came in my first business, and we were together. And there I was as a solopreneur, as you say, doing everything.
mhm,
You're right. I mean, it's like a short order cook who doesn't have any staff. They flipping burgers and doing everything all by themselves. So you said just now, it just made me think about exactly what my business was like. And
mhm,
you learned from your dad, and I learned from my grandmother.
mhm,
And she had a small business, a dry cleaning business, and it grew because she was strong with customers. And the only thing that caused me to do what I do today, she lacked what she didn't take care of herself, her retirement. And that's why I talk to businesses today. Get the plan together, have an exit strategy. And exit doesn't mean that you're getting ready to just leave.
mhm,
Exit means that you go from what, Preeti, one plan to another. You exit one plan, right? And then you
mhm,
start another plan. And that's what you just described as a solopreneur. Is that you start and restart and start and restart. And if you get tired of starting and restarting, you're in the wrong business. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's what authors do. And that's
mhm,
why I was saying that together, authors, readers, we really need to blend together and support one another. As we support
mhm.
each other, we deepen that relationship, and you learn so much from one another. Because I'm learning from Preeti.
No,
I'm learning a lot.
and to your point, like even for me, like for a long time, like my business and my author worlds, they stayed separate. But then, like for me, like deep inside, like what connects for me is like connects them both is the belief that people, like when they are supported, like whether they're 5 or they're 50, when they have the right support, they flourish. And through probably both my worlds, that's kind of what I'm trying to do is help the little children and the adults basically flourish and enjoy what they're doing.
Wow. See, see, there you go. And you're starting off, look at you doing it in children's books. I think that's beautiful what you're doing. You're not waiting until get to be, my age or old woman. You are starting them out right now and saying you can do it. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
wait on, just sit in the spot like you said to me, wait for Cinderella to appear. You can actually do this yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
you are encouraging them to be, to go out there and be trailblazers and go-getters. I love that about your books.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that, reading that. Really. And then look, and then you wrote your nonfiction
Mm-hmm.
book. And that's why, again, when you and I talk about this a lot, that's why I mentioned, I said, Preeti, what is it? I said, you do so many, and Preeti said, the many hats. It's the many hats, she said, that women wear. And that's how we came up with
Mm-hmm.
the title, was that she and I had this discussion, and she mentioned the many hats. Because think about the many hats that an author wears. Just think about right now, Preeti, just an author in which a lot of us can relate to you right now. And that's why I was saying, as we relate to Preeti, let's get behind her. Let's support she and Pranav. Support she and her son. Let's support them on their journey as they go, as they travel down the road. And we don't know how many more books she may want to write, or how many more books. Pranav right now has written 2 books, and he's writing his third book. 13 years old. I mean, aren't you proud, girl? I know I ask you all this all the time. Aren't you proud of your son?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Yeah, and I think I did mention to you also, right, earlier in that panel that I was in, that actually it was him who started the writing journey first, though yeah, my book got published first because mine's much smaller. But he was the one who started writing, and in a way that also motivated me because I'm like, okay, I have stories and I write or I tell it to my daughter, like, why not actually write it down and make it into a book? Because I was like, okay, he's writing, why not, why shouldn't I try? So he also in a way motivated me to start writing.
To see, you know what? Absolutely beautiful. And I want to just say to all of all of you also today that within the author challenge, again, that's what Preethi and I and Pranav are doing is we are deepening, author and reader, relationships.
Mhm,
And how we're doing it basically also is within the challenge is inviting you to the first 3 who write a book review. The first 3
mhm.
will receive a signed copy of her book, and you will get it, and then share it with youth, share it with your children. I mean, share it within your church. Just share it.
I
I'm
think
telling, I'm saying to you.
also to like like I said, like even the 6 books in my series, they have evolved or changed a little bit as they go, is basically based on like the reader feedback that I received. So like this is the first one. That's my daughter's coloring.
It's oh, beautiful.
So the first book basically like has coloring pages on every other side. So there's coloring pages and then there's text. And with the uh, other books, like so the other books, they have a combination of both. So they do have like the colorful illustrations, but they also have like things that
Oh, that's
kids can
nice.
color,
Yeah,
and there are like puzzles,
yeah.
so to make it more interactive. And this is the book that I told you about earlier was and this particular god, or more of a prince who is considered god now, is this book happened only because a friend of mine who now lives in UK,
Mhm.
so her family believes, or like this is like her family's favorite god or something. And she then told me like she liked the earlier couple of books I had written and she had read them to her son, and she was like, I want to tell this story in the same fashion so my son can understand like her family's story. And so, and in fact, to write this book, I had conversations with my mother to go back and ask her for some stories about this particular god, because I didn't know very much. I knew only some of it. So it was like it kind of led me to conversations with her, like with my mother, trying to understand the story first and then to write it in a way that little kids can relate to it. And then was like this book. So this book is the book that Marlene was talking about, where it talks about like little girls standing up for themselves and them being brave, and like, and even so Shakti basically means courage, and it's all the different forms of courage. It talks about how patience sometimes can be a courage, how being silent sometimes can be courage, how like sometimes yes, standing up can be courage, sometimes darkness can be courage. So it's not courage just doesn't mean the strength and the physical strength to fight somebody physically, because different forms of strength can help us in different situations. So it talks about all those. And like I said, this one has like, so this is the actual story retold, but then there's a story in your world where a kid learns something from here, but then how he or she uses it in today's world in their classroom or in the playground. And this also does have coloring pages. So um, so this is also like that, has a combination of all of those. This again is also like that, where it has an actual story, but then there's another story of a kid who is like standing up for her friends at the school when somebody gets hurt or somebody drops a book, and how they go and help each other. So even my stories, like, so first, when there were coloring pages in the book, people said, "Oh, coloring pages are nice, but then maybe have some colorful illustrations also." So then I started doing a mix of both. And then somebody then told me, "Can you write a book about this particular topic or this particular person?" Then I researched that and wrote a book about that. And then somebody told me, "Okay, why don't you, yes, you have reflection questions, but then why don't you start writing parallel stories so kids can relate to it better?" So then I started doing that. So, like I said, a lot of the way my books have changed or books have evolved. And this is my next latest book, which is for little bigger kids. So the older ones are more little children, but this is for probably grade 2 or 3 and up, because this is more chapter books kind of thing. So this is a chapter book. So a lot of things I think evolved for me as a writer from the readers' feedback, from the readers telling me what they liked more of, what they liked less of. So then I incorporate that in my next book. And another thing I'd like to say is, especially as like a self-published author, I think getting that outreach or getting that support is really important, because unfortunately the literacy world is such that, like, if you need to get into those big name stores or to the bigger players, you need to go through like a literary agent and all that, and that's a big process. You don't know who is credible. And also in some places, the amount of edits and things that they do, they kind of change your story or take it away from what you want it to be. So that's kind of why both me and my son Pranav decided to go the self-publishing route. But then the self-publishing route also then means that the outreach is also on us to market our own books and try to get support for our own books. So
Mhm.
basically, yes, for anybody listening here, please like check out our books, like give us that time, and like reach out for any feedback or anything, because that's really valuable.
I love your interactive. Your books are so interactive, Preeti. I love that. And and you mentioned feedback. How did you acquire feedback? I just want to, that's one of the last things I want to ask you today is that feedback. How did you acquire it?
For most of my initial books were like kind of within friends, family, schools, the extended community. So it was easier to get feedback. But then otherwise, I would say like even reviews, right? Even reviews are a way of getting feedback. Like if you write a review, like, yes, I've got good reviews, I've got bad reviews, but then like even those bad reviews are a
Mhm.
feedback that, oh, okay, somebody doesn't like it if it's a certain way, and you can change from there and try to like match to everybody's kind of request levels also. So I think getting feedback, or if, and I think these days almost like all authors, like the big ones, the small ones, we are all on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And in my case, I don't use a pen name, so my name is the name on the book. So you can find me easily on any platform and reach out and tell me a message or send me some information, and I would see it.
Thank you so very much, for joining me today. And I'd like to again, uh, just ask you if you would reach out and let's support, Preeti, and let's her son Pranav on their writing journey. Let's support all authors need this. And also she's also saying that feedback is good, because even if it's like you said, good or bad, it still helps us
Mm-hmm.
to, as she just said, she's rewritten some of it. She's written new books based on the feedback. I mean, and see, that's great to hear. So I just want to say to you that that again, the first three, and I'm hopeful that you will be one of them that actually read the book and write a book review.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a link that you'll see attached that you can click on and just register. And just in maybe 30 minutes or so. Read the book. Read it. Read the book. Read it to a child. Read it yourself. Enjoy it. And then read it to your child, or even let your child read it.
Mm.
Read it. And then reach out and you will receive a signed copy of Preethi's book. And also, there'll be some other giveaways. She's not doing giveaways. This particular challenge will have giveaways, free giveaways along with the book. And those 10 individuals that follow
Mm-hmm.
who are not in the winner's circle, you're still gonna win because you'll get the free giveaways. So join us, come support us, and support all authors. All authors give
Probably
those
just one, yeah, probably just one thing I'd like to add is like I'm also part of a few like children's author groups and things, and we read each other's books because the way I see it, like authors are not competition to each other because everybody has a story to say, and you have a specific audience for who this story is. So if I'm reading another author's book or another author is reading my book, we are not looking at each other as competition. We are only learning from each other and supporting each other.
I love it. And those of you who would like to do that, come to the author challenge. Let me know. You can let Preeti know that you want us to do what? Read your book. And you
Mm.
want to you would like to be featured. Come and be featured as an author. Come, bring your book, and we will all read your book. Come. That's what this is about. It's about, as she just said, joining together, uniting, and reading one another's books. And Preeti, what is anything further you'd like to say before we end here?
No. So the only thing, like I said, is yeah, please support not me, but all the authors and read more books. And also, like for children, there's another thing is like reading a book. I always say yes, like even from the screens and the computer and the videos, they do get they get information, but then that imagination and creativity comes from reading a book.
Mm,
Because like when
absolutely.
they're reading, they're picturing what it looked like or what somebody did and things, and that imagination creativity especially for little children is very important because that, like even for my son, like that then becomes their safe space to go to whenever they want to like de-stress, they are upset about something. That imagination creativity helps them.
Wonderful. And so thank you everyone for joining us today. And come authors and be challenged. Come challenge yourself within the 2026 author challenge. Thank you so much again. Thank you.